Coach, let's talk pressure defense, specifically a forced baseline pressure defense. If you followed me for very long, you know that that's the style of defense my teams have become known for, and that's what we play. We have a great group of coaches in our program. We teach it from the ninth grade all the way up, and our players have really bought into it. So we've been able to win conference titles. We've been able to have top 10 rankings, and we've just done a tremendous job finding success with it. We don't always have the most athletic players, so we don't have the tallest players, the fastest players. We kind of have a mixture of everything in there every year, but it's a small high school. We get what we get when we come up. So our kids have to be able to do three things really well to make this style of defense work. They've got to understand what they're doing. They have to believe in their teammates and in the system that it's going to work, and they have to be ready to compete on every possession. We believe if those three things are done, then we've got a chance when we step out on the floor for this defense to really disrupt what the offense is trying to do. Now, I want to show you real quick where the pressure comes in this defense, because a lot of times coaches are thinking an on the line, up the line style of defense. And I want to show you that this is a little bit different. We'll also take a look at maybe the pack line and the force middle and why I chose not to play those defenses. So hopefully this is something that you can take and you can use and add it into what you're doing defensively. If the ball's up at the top of the key, we want to put ball pressure on this person, but we really aren't trying to steal the ball or anything up here. And we're not playing on the line, up the line. So that would mean if there were lines drawn, we'd be X2 would be on this line and up the line. X3 would be on the line, up the line. I can't guarantee that my players are going to be quick enough and fast enough to defend backdoor cuts out of this or defend a real athletic group. So we don't play this style of defense. What we want to do is we actually want to be a step back and a step up. So we're step back and step up, step back and step up on both sides. And this is where our defense is positioned. Now, where does the pressure part of it come in? First is X1 is trying to get pressure and get them outside of the lane lines. We want this guard to go, it doesn't matter which direction, they can dribble outside of the lane lines or they can pass. And by having our player back a step and up a step, we're really inviting this pass. We would like it to go over to the wing. So let's say we pass it over to player 2. Now is when we kind of clamp down and we get pressure on them. So X2 is going to come over, is going to close out up on that high side, and is going to force to the baseline. We want to force them right here into this little area where the lane line and the free throw line meet. So we're forcing right down in here with the dribble. Now, that does a couple of things for us. One, it allows our help side rotation to come over and for us to possibly get a trap. So we'll use X5 here, for example. We can come over and we can trap. So if they're going to get a shot or anything, we've got some pressure that's coming up. X2 also can't just get blown by. It's not like you're giving them a free ride into that space. We're still playing defense, but our goal is to make sure they get to this area, not to the rim. If we give them a straight line to the rim, then we've got ourselves out of position. But the other thing that we want to do is not allow the ball to be reversed. So whether it's player 1 up top or they move one of the other players up to the top, we don't want player 2 to be passing that ball back up top. Remember, we want to keep it outside of these lane lines. So long passes, skip passes from here to here, we can figure those out. We're athletic enough, we've got enough time to adjust to those. If they're going to dribble way out here, we can handle that. They're not going towards the hoop. They're not going to hurt us at all. They're not going to shoot it from way out here. So that's something that it doesn't bother us. But as soon as they get outside these lane lines, we're applying a lot of pressure, trying to keep them on that third of the floor. So since we started on player 2 side, we want to keep the ball over there as much as possible. If they shoot it from this area, that's okay. A player driving in, having to stop, get back on balance, get a shot over not only their defender, but possibly a second defender who's coming out to trap them. That's a tough shot, and it's coming from the side of the basket, which is not as good of a shot as if they were in the middle of the basket. Now, let's take a look real quick. Now we kind of understand what the basic principles and where we're applying pressure first, and what we'd like to get that ball handler to do. Let's take a look at the force baseline and the middle defense over here. Now, the pack line and then force middle defense. The pack line has a line here, and wherever the ball happens to be, we'll put it here, they're going to play straight up, butt to the basket. So they're butt straight to the basket here. And everybody else, depending on where they're at, is playing on or just below the pack line. They're trying to make it so that the ball can't be driven in. What they're not taking away is they're not taking away any ball reversal. So as soon as the ball is reversed, it can be reversed to the other side. These players would come out when their person has the ball. But if their person doesn't have the ball, they're back on that pack line. Coming back over to this side, we're pressuring the ball extremely hard, not allowing ball reversal. We want to take that away and trying to get them to dribble to one area, what we think is the toughest area on the court to actually make a play. You've got the baseline, you've got a sideline, you've got the side of the backboard, you've got a player coming over to trap, you have your defender coming down. There's a lot going on that players have to think about when they're trying to make a play in this defense. So we aren't going to allow this player to have the reversal options to try to reset things or to try to find something on the backside of the floor. So this is one of the differences between a forced baseline and a pack line style of defense. Now let's take a look just real quick at forced middle. If player one has the ball here and we're forcing the ball back into the middle, that means they're going in this direction. That gives them lots of opportunity. So this player is much, even if everybody is kind of collapsing on them here, they have a lot of opportunity to kick the ball back out, kick the ball down, to make a pass out to the side. There's just so many things. So if one player isn't in the right position, or one player, or more than one player, doesn't get where they need to be, there's a lot of options. Not to say that they can't get something good out of this, but that all the passing lanes are still open. In the forced baseline defense, all the passing lanes aren't still open. Sure, we have possibly a long pass over to the side, but that long pass we can close out on and we can take care of. The other thing is, take a look at where the shots are coming from. Shots are coming from the middle of the floor. Where do most players practice shooting? In the middle of the floor. Where do they practice their dribble moves? In the middle of the floor. They're used to getting in this area and trying to make shots. They also can see to the right, the left, and down towards the hoop to make those passes. Over on the forced baseline, we're forcing it to the baseline, and they don't have a ton of availability in terms of shot selection. They don't have a ton of availability in terms of where they want to pass the ball. This shot here, I would say, is probably practiced a lot less than the shot that we get from the middle of the floor. So when players work out and they're starting to try to get comfortable with their shot and they're getting in the rhythm, they're not going to the baseline trying to turn themselves almost to a 90-degree angle and get a sound shot off. So, Coach, these are the reasons, some of the reasons that we don't play a pack line or a forced middle defense, that we stick with the forced baseline. The other thing is that we know if we play pressure defense in our practices, our players will be used to playing pressure defense. So when we see pressure defense, it doesn't matter what style that they're using, we're going to be used to it because it's what we do every single day. If a team plays pack line defense and they're not used to seeing pressure all the time, and then all of a sudden they run up against a team who does apply pressure, I think it makes it a whole lot harder for them to adjust in the midst of the game to try to get what they want. So that's one of the things we take a look at. What is everybody else doing? And we don't just do the opposite because it's the opposite, but we do something that is going to cause the offense to have to adjust that they don't see every day. So if you don't play this style of defense, there's no way for you to really mimic its intensity and to mimic all the things you can get out of it when you're in your practice. So when we get to games, I feel like our teams have an advantage and got an upper hand. So, Coach, there's a little bit of where the pressure comes from, a little bit of comparison between a couple of other defenses. Hopefully you found this helpful, and you can kind of add some of these ideas maybe into what you're doing with your team. Now, if you're seeing this on the website, if you're seeing it on social media, or if you're getting it through my newsletter, I'd love for you to comment, get back to me, let me know what questions that you might have, or just maybe what style of defense you like to play. All right, Coach. Till next time, get in the gym, get better.